Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. We're still looking at events in Egypt, and an Egyptian police officer has been charged over the fatal shooting of Shema Sabag. That's a woman protester whose death caused international outrage when footage of it spread online in January. Sabag was shot in Cairo during protests a day before the anniversary of the uprising that ousted the autocrat Hosni Mubarak back in 2011. The public prosecutor referred the case for trial in a criminal court, and that's a rare action against a member of the security forces. The officer, who remained unidentified, is accused of an action that led to the death of Sabag. That's a lesser charge than murder, and lawyers are saying that depending on which article of the penal code is applied to him, the sentence could range from 3 to 10 years. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, accused by critics of Muslim opponents, responded to the outrage over Sabag's killing by referring to her as his daughter and the daughter of Egypt, and promised to bring her killers to justice. Many Egyptians hoped Mubarak's ouster would lead to greater freedom, but the government has cracked down hard on Islamists and secular activists since the army ousted the country's first freely elected president, Mohamed Morsi, of the Muslim Brotherhood in the year 2013. Still in Egypt, an Egyptian public prosecutor has confirmed that 16 people, including members of the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood, were charged with killing and inciting violence in connection with the deaths of 19 soccer fans who clashed with security forces last month. The Brotherhood supporters and members of a fan group known as the Ultras were charged with carrying out the violence outside of a stadium in order to create an image of instability before an investment summit which held in Sharm el-Sheikh at the weekend. However, that plan did not work because, just like we reported yesterday, it was a resounding success, attracting foreign investors who donated billions of dollars to the cause. Now to Ethiopia. An Ethiopian Airlines pilot has been convicted in absentia of hijacking his own plane and flying it to Geneva, 13 months after he surrendered to police and sought asylum there. The High Court in Addis Ababa said it would sentence the man in question on Friday if he ever returns to his home country, and he could face up to 20 years in prison. With the jets on the tarmac, an unarmed Halamadian scrambled down an emergency rope and surrendered to police without harming the 193 passengers on board the Boeing aircraft, and 139 of them were Italians, 11 were Americans, and 4 were French. Swiss police have said the pilot sought asylum because he did not feel safe in his country, Ethiopia. Opposition politicians and rights campaigners often accuse the government of stifling dissent. That's a charge dismissed by the government. Ethiopian officials said at the time Addis Ababa may ask for him to be extradited. Joining us now via telephone is Ona Ekomu, who is a security expert, to speak to us more about this development in Ethiopia. Ona, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Now, I'd like to start by asking you if this case is the first of its kind. Have we seen a case whereby, a similar case where a pilot hijacked his own plane?
Well, it's quite a rare occurrence because usually the terrorist elements in the heyday of hijack, they would surreptitiously get aboard a flight and then produce a weapon and then take control of the weapon or of the craft. Now, like we saw in the case of the 9/11 hijackers, they got on board, produced box cutters, and threatened harm to passengers and crew, and then took control of the flight. But the situation where the pilot himself hijacked is a self-hijack. I think it creates a new category in terms of perhaps maybe stealing of a craft or even worse yet, a terrorist incident. But having said that, I think the reason we see so few of those occurrences is because of the rigorous background checks that pilots are made to go through before these aircrafts are entrusted to them.
On what you just said, are we looking at the possibility of maybe the fact that no security background check was run concerning him?
Yes, sometimes some critical information in one's background could be missed. For example, what do the background checks elicit, aside from just information on education, on social connections, and on experience and all? We also want to look at lifestyle, something like spending habits. Now, somebody who is indebted, it means perhaps he might have to look for money to borrow or steal money somewhere in order to meet his habits. If he's into gambling or to taking of psychotropic drugs or substances, then he becomes a prime target for a red flag in a background investigation. So, so many other factors are out there that could, in fact, indicate that someone is a high risk from a background investigation point of view.
So, besides background checks, what else can be done to ensure that situations like this are avoided or played down to the barest minimum in the future?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Well, I think we know that these flights can be tracked, and if a flight is going off course, like you remember the Malaysian Airlines MH370 flight that went off course, and then of course it's assumed lost in the Indian Ocean now, in the Southern Indian Ocean. If a flight can be tracked, then when it's going off course, because all aircraft will file their flight plan before they depart. Now, if a flight is going off course and is being monitored, then that will indicate that something is wrong, and such that we can now start trying to talk down the pilot from doing something stupid. But if you don't have that tracking capability of a flight, or you are not even tracking them, as it were, while they are in flight, when they divert to another place, you may not know and may not be able to intercept them, such that you can dissuade them from carrying out a nefarious act. But aside from that, I think the kinds of psychological profiling you give for your pilots, they are very important, because piloting aircraft is a very high-stress job. People don't realize it. But these people know that all the souls on board the plane, they are in their hands. And so by the time they get to, things go wrong much more than people can anticipate in a flight that is going maybe even just a 2-hour or 4-hour flight. A lot of things go wrong, either with ground control or on board with equipment. But pilots are not allowed. They are expected to bottle in all the stress. They are not allowed to express it to persons out there, even to their wives. So the piloting is a very stressful job. So giving periodic psychological debriefing will help people to ease off their stress, and then perhaps also to head off things that could become risky behavior.
Mr. Onai Komu, thank you so much for speaking with us on Network Africa. We appreciate your time and your inputs.